You got to be obsessed about everything you do for the customer. We live in now what we're going to call the experience economy. And sure, you can spend a whole heap of time worrying about reviews and worrying about what your competitors are doing, but you can actually just focus on what you're actually doing for the customer. Now, this is one of the most amazing things. It's the story of what some of the greats do on the inside of a real estate industry. And I'll never forget it. Michael Pallier tells this incredible story where he was actually in this position that he went out and he sold a property to this particular lady. And when he sold that particular property, she rang him at settlement and said, "Michael, we've got a problem. The toilet seat's broken." He went straight down to the property, changed over that toilet seat, made it all happen. And then literally a few years later, she actually rang up and said, "Hey, my husband and I are now in a position we want to sell the unit. We also want to sell his house. Can you come and have a look at it?" And it turns out that that was actually one of the most expensive houses to be sold in Sydney that year because she'd actually married a guy by the name of James Packer. Pretty interesting, right? And it's the story about what great service is all about. When you go through a property, you see a light globe's out. Are you the sort of person who thinks, maybe I should duck down to Woolworths, get a replacement light globe and go and put that back in to help my vendor to present their property at its absolute best? It's the little things that actually build up to that great referral capability. Now, if you're thinking about customer experience, it's about making that decision. Why do we do what we do? When do we actually do it? And how does it actually impact the customer? Because if we can do more of the jobs that the customer needs to get done, then ultimately we increase our value. Now, this is a really important part of the conversation. If you're there and you're talking to a client, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, as a real estate agency, we do everything that you're going to need, even right the way through to mail redirection on the day of settlement. That level of detail really shines through in you being a great real estate agent. And there's less conjecture about fee when you actually really explain the things of what you actually do. One of the great challenges is that everyone thinks that they match. I've got a database. That person's got a database. It's not about that. It's about the 4 or 5 people that you know that are the underbidders that you met last weekend that have already sold, that need to buy in order to be able to dovetail settlement. Urgent buyers pay a higher price. How you tell the story is ultimately what it is that you got to do for the customer. That's why I love learning how to have a great listing presentation, because it's the ultimate story of what we do for the customer. It's you explaining the customer experience, how we allay their fears, how we put systems in place to be able to mitigate the risk, and most importantly, to help them to maximize the sale process. Get really clear about your customer experience, teach it, train it, test it. Ultimately, you'll have a phenomenal business because every customer that you serve brings you another one.